Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Hutch here, and we're on Module 2-2, all about taxes, which you're going to be dealing with the rest of your life. Let's take a look. So, some common taxes are sales tax, income tax, property tax. A sales tax is a taxes added onto the price of an item or a service, so like prepared food at a restaurant. You're used to a 6% sales tax where we live. This particular story problem has a sales tax of 7.5% on a $10 t-shirt. This is the visual I want stuck in your brain for all these kinds of problems. It's is over of equals percent out of 100. And this section is the percent. Okay, remember percents are always out of 100. The divided by 100 turns the percent into a decimal for us so that we can do math work with it. So that's why that's there. The top is the part and the bottom is the whole. Since 100 is a whole for a percent, that's how we have this equivalent fraction that works to do the job that we need of finding missing number here. So let's take a look. You can see the part for this is the sales tax, and the whole is going to be the cost of the shirt. Okay, and then this whole section is the percent, so 7.5% out of 100. So rather than solving that one, let's go ahead and take a look at example 1. Okay, so for this one, we can see Carrie wants to buy sports equipment that costs $140. The sales tax in her city is 5.75%. If you see the percentage, then you know that it goes right here, okay, every single time. And I know that if it costs 140, that's my whole. It's definitely not the tax, okay? So let's go ahead and put these pieces where they belong in the proportion. So we're going to have T be our variable for tax, okay, because we don't know what the tax is as a money amount. We do know that the whole cost of the sports equipment is $140. Let's set it equal to the percentage. That percentage is 5.75, and it's always out of 100. So there's our proportion, and we know we have a couple ways of solving a proportion. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the cross-multiplying way. So the first, I always do the variable first. And so we have 100 times t equals, and then we can multiply this way. So means extremes cross-multiplying, 5.75 times 140, if you type it right, and we have 805. Now we need to isolate the variable. So we're going to divide 100 because we have 100 times t. So I'm going to divide 100 to both sides. And that cancels out the 100 because we have one whole. Okay. And now we have t equals, and then 805 divided by 100 just moves the decimal point 2 spots to the left, right? So we have $8.05 as our tax. And notice I put a dollar symbol there. Okay, so I'm actually going to move this variable over, and we'll go ahead and call it tax equals 8.05. Okay, now we could have found the multiplier also, so I just want you to see that this is possible. I can't, it doesn't make sense for me to go from this fraction to that fraction because I can't take the t and do math with it that direction. So if I am going to use that method of finding the multiplier, I actually need to go this way, okay, and look at what that multiplier would be. So 100 times what is 140? So I could do 140 divided by 100, and I'd get times 1.4 over 1.4, which means I can just multiply that by 5.75, and we get the same thing, 8.05. Okay, so that's another option for you, but I do want to give you some practice with the cross multiplying, only because it is going to work every single time, and we know the finding the multiplier doesn't always work if it's a repeating decimal. So let's, for this lesson, let's go ahead and use means extremes throughout the entire time, just to get some practice with that. So Ashley's buying a laptop that sells for this price, so that's the whole price of the laptop. The sales tax rate in her city is 8.14%. Don't get confused that it says tax. We're focusing on the fact that it has a percentage symbol, okay? And so this goes on our percent side. It does say, though, what is the total cost for the laptop? So be aware of stuff like that. And then it says round the answer to the nearest penny or cent, okay? So let's go ahead and set up your proportion, okay? So we don't know what the tax is, but we do know the whole, okay? So we don't know the part as the tax, but we know that the whole cost is $749. Set it equal to the percent, which is 8.25%, and it's always over 100, okay? And then let's go ahead and use our cross multiplying to solve this out. Okay, so we have 100t equals, and then multiply our others. So we have 8.25 times 749, and we have 6,179 and 25 hundredths. And then we're going to go ahead and isolate the variable. So instead of t times 100, we divide by 100. And you can start to see a pattern for solving these. And we end up with the tax equals, let's go ahead and do our division here, 100. It's going to move the decimal point 2 spots to the left. So we have $61, and they want us to round to the nearest cent, okay? So I'm cutting it off after the 79, and it doesn't round up, so there we go. All right, now, if it just says what is the tax, we would be done, but it says what is the total cost, so be really careful about that. We need to take our 749 plus our tax of $61.79, okay? So I'm going to show my math work, or at least show the problem setup right there. Make sure you use the rounded amount of tax, 61.79, and we have a total cost of $810.79. And let's go ahead and write total. So there we go, and that's what we're circling. So that's what work would look like for that. Okay, so something else to look out there for. All right, ready? Example 2, hotel tax. Let's go ahead and do this. The cost of a hotel room rented for 2 nights is this. Notice it's not for 1 night, and they're asking us to double it. It actually is the cost of 2 nights. And then there's a 12% room tax, okay? So again, don't get confused by that word tax. This is the percentage, okay? We're looking for the actual tax as a money amount. So that's the only way I could see you getting a little misconception in your head. They want to know what is the total cost of the hotel room for that, okay? Which now makes me realize, if you caught me on this, good job for you, which makes you realize that I would have lost a point on a test for this one. What's the total cost of the equipment, right? So we have the $140 plus the $8.05, which is obviously $148.05 total. So if you caught that and were like, oh, Hutch, you're wrong, then good for you. But I fixed it myself, so to you. All right, so here we go. What's the total cost of the hotel room? So you can see all these little things. It's a lot to pay attention to. You got to really slow yourself down and double check yourself. All right, so let's create our template. We don't know what the tax amount is as money. We do know the cost of the rooms is $280. Let's set it equal to the percent. It says 12%, and it's always out of 100. We're going to use our means extremes, cross multiplying. set up the same way. Look how this looks the same every single time. So 100t equals, and then 12 times 280, if the buttons worked, 3,360. All right, and then it says t times 100, so I'm going to divide 100 both sides, and we end up with the tax equals, swoop, swoop, because that's what dividing by 100 does. It's money, $33.60. So you don't even need your calculator for that part. It's pretty quick. All right, what's the total cost of the hotel room then? So it's our 280 plus the 33.60, and so total is 280 plus $33.60 tax, $313.60. $313.60 total. That's what we're circling. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and you can try this check, or if you just want to follow along with me, you can. Okay. All right. Here we go. Cost of the hotel room for 5 nights is $610. That's my whole. Notice I'm labeling things. It's good math strategy. There's my percentage. Okay. What is the total cost? So they do need us to add it on at the end. So let's go ahead and set it up. Okay. So we don't know our tax as money. We do know the whole room cost. Okay. Prior to tax. And we know the 9.5%, and it's always out of 100. Okay, let's go ahead and use our means extremes. 100t equals 610 times 9.5 is 5,795. And then, same as before, divided by 100. And we end up with t equals, swoop, swoop, 57.95. Okay. All right. So we take our $610, add it to the $57.95, and you get $610 plus $57.95 tax. What's your total bill? $667.95 total. And make sure you put that $sign there and circle the whole thing. So make sure you write total. It shows that you're actually answering the questions. All right, you can go ahead and pause and try example 3 out and then check with me if you want, or you can follow along. He purchases this much worth of clothing, and we have this percent. So let's go ahead and set up our proportion. They're asking for total cost at the end. Okay, so I don't know T. I do know that the cost of the clothing is 56. Set it equal to the percent. It's always out of 100. We do means extremes just like always. Okay, 56 times 7.5 is 420. Okay, how do we isolate the variable? Do the inverse operation to both sides, and we end up with a tax amount of, swoop, swoop, $4.20. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and add that to the $56. So $56 plus 420, and you end up with 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we end up with $60.20. And remember, we need to write total and circle. Okay. All right, so there we go with that one. Did you get it right? All right, let's do this check and then on to our apply, and then we'll go to your practice page. All right, Jimena. I don't know what that is. Jimena. Maybe Jamina. Jimena, I don't know. Anyway, $24 worth of crafting supplies. The tax rate in the city is this. It's written as a percent. Okay, so I know where that goes. That's what I'm looking for. What is the total cost to use any strategy? Well, I'll tell you what strategy we're going to use. We don't know the tax as a cost. We do know the $24 worth of clothing, and we know the percentage of 6.25% over 100. Let's use our means extremes strategy. We have 100T equals the 24 times 6.25, which is 150. And we're going to divide 100 on both sides. Cross that out, and we have a tax of swoop $1.50. There we go. What's the total cost? Well, it was $24 plus the tax of $1.50, and that puts us at a grand total of $25.50 total. And that's what gets circled. All right, let's do an apply here. So we know applies are multi-step. They make us think a little bit deeper from what we were doing. David goes shopping at his local grocery store and buys the items shown in the table. In the city he lives, there is the 7.3% sales tax, so that's my percent, on all items except food. How much money does David spend at the grocery store? Round to the nearest cent if necessary. All right, so let's see. It says 7.3% sales tax on all items except food. So chicken is a food, so that's what's tricky about this. We actually don't care about some of these. So the only thing we care about are these two. And you could find the tax of each of them individually and add them together, but that's way more work. So let's just go ahead and add these together. And we have 550 plus 615 is $11.65. Okay, so there's the cost of the food. Okay, that's my whole. And now we can go ahead and do the rest. So that was the only really extra step, is identifying which things were being taxed. Okay, so I have my tax as money that I don't know. I know my whole cost was $11.65. This is sort of like a subtotal if you think about a store receipt. Do you know the percentage? Yep, and it's always out of 100. We can do our means extremes. 100T equals whatever 11.65 times 7.3 is. And we have 85 and 45 thousandths. Go ahead and isolate the variable. Divide by 100, both sides. That makes a 1T equals swoop 0.85, okay, per cents. So that's how you write cents, is $0.85. Don't write 85 with a cent symbol. All right, so how much money does he spend at the grocery store? Let's go ahead and add it up there. So 0.85. So let's see, $11.65 on the food, 11.65 plus the 85 cents tax, not very much, is only $12.50. But hold on though. How much does he spend at the grocery store? So this is how much he spends on the paper plates and napkins with the tax, but we do have to add all those other things here, right? So I guess this is where it gets a little multi-step. So let's go ahead and get all those, because you have to interpret what's going on and what you need to do. Okay, so I have to add up the food, and I get $10.79. But remember, that's not taxed, okay? But the other stuff was, okay? And so now I have plus $12.50, and we have a total bill from the grocery store of $23.29. $23.29 total. Okay, and there we go. Okay, all right, so there's your apply there. I guess there was a little bit more to do. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at your practice homework. Okay, and we'll do some of these problems together, and then I'll give you time to work on the rest on your own. Okay, all right, so let's start off with the same process as before. I expect to see the proportions for every single one. Okay, here's my percent. Here's my whole cost of breakfast. So set up your proportion, 7% over 100. And then you can do your means extremes. 100t equals whatever 7 times 18 is. Okay, 126. And then we isolate the variable by dividing 100 to both sides. And we end up with the tax equals swoop swoop $1.26. Okay, what was the total cost to the nearest cent? So we're going to go ahead and do our $18 plus our tax of $1.26, and that equals $19.26. And make sure you put total and circle your answer. Okay, all right. Let's go ahead and do one more of those with number 2. Okay, and then we'll move down into the word problems. All right, so here's my percentage. Here's my whole. So tax over 24. I think you probably are getting the hang of this by now. Over 100. Do your means extremes. It's a very repetitive process. 24 times 6, which is good when math is like that, you know. It's nice for a change. Isolate the variable. It's t times 100, so we're going to divide by 100 both sides. Cross it out. Notice I'm not getting lazy with any of my work. I'm doing the same thing every time, crossing things out. Swoop, swoop, $1.44. Add that $1.44 to my original shirt cost, and we have a total of $25.44 total. Okay, all right, number 3 is for you to do. Okay, let's go ahead and look at number 4. Same as we've done. We got a fraction there, which is fine. You can turn it into a decimal. Here's the cost of the boots. That's my whole. Here's my percent. What is the total cost? So let's go ahead and set up your proportion. We don't know the tax amount as money. We do know the wholesale cost of the boots is $68. And we know the percent is 5.5%, and it's always over 100. Let's go ahead and do our means extremes. 100t equals the 68 times 5.5, and we get 374. Isolate the variable, and we have divide by 100, both sides, cross that out, and we're left with the tax equaling, if we divide by 100, $3.74. So pretty quick process. We're going to go ahead and add that $3.74 to the 68 cents. 3.74 is the tax, plus the 68 cents cost of the boots, and we have a cost of $71.74 total. Okay, is the cost of the boots. All right, let's go ahead and you can do number 5 on your own. Let's go to Mr. Fwong. I love the names in this book. They're awesome. Stayed in a hotel room for 2 nights that cost $210. Notice it doesn't say each night, so I'm actually able to use this as my whole price. Hotel room tax rate is 12%. That's my percent side. What is the total cost? Let's go ahead and set up your proportion. Tax, we don't know. We know the subtotal cost right now is $210. We know the tax is 12%, and it's always over 100. Let's go ahead and do your cross multiplying means extremes. So we have 100t equals 210 times 12 is 2,520. Isolate the variable. It's t times 100, so I'm going to divide 100 to both sides. Cross that out like I always do, and I have a tax of swoop swoop $25.20. We're going to add that to the original price, and we have $25.20 plus $210. And the total cost of this room with tax is $235.20 total. And there we go. All right, number 7 is all you. All right, number 8. He spends this much before tax, okay, at the bookstore. So that's my whole cost prior to tax. If this tax rate is 7.25, that's my percent. What's the total cost? So let's go ahead and do this. You should be a pro by this point. Here's my whole cost at this point. We know our percent is 7.25, and it's always over 100. Okay. Let's go ahead and use means extremes and solve for this variable. Okay. So we have 100t equals whatever 30.45 times 7.25 is, and it is 220.7625. Write it out there and keep it. We're not doing any rounding till the end, okay? You don't round in the middle. And then we're going to go ahead and isolate the variable. So let's divide by 100. Both sides, keep the balance. Cross out the hundreds because we have one whole now. And we have our tax is swoop swoop $2.20, but if I cut it at the 20 here because of the 7, it's 21 cents. Okay, when we're rounding to the nearest penny. Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and add that to the cost. So $2.21 tax plus the $30.45, and we have $32.66 total. Okay, as our answer. All right, you go ahead and take care of number 9 as well. I'm going to do 10, and then your job is 11. Okay, so let's look at number 10 as an apply. We know it's a multi-step type of problem, so let's process what they're doing here. She purchased the items shown in the table right there, duh. In the city she lives in, the sales tax rate is this. That's my percent. Okay. In another city, the sales tax rate is this percent. Okay, so I have 2 different percents. How much more? Okay, that's finding the difference. Okay, so I'm noticing those clue words. How much more is she spending if she purchases the items in the city where she lives? Okay, so let's go ahead and compare those two. So she purchases all these items, and it doesn't say anything about tax on only certain ones. Okay, so look at this fancy symbol. Do you know how to do that? So let's go ahead and add all those up there. We're going to have to move you over, calculator. So we have 11.99. I could find the tax on each of them individual, but that's way more work. So let's go ahead and add all these up. All right, so we have a total sales, sort of like subtotal, of $54.24. Okay, and so we're going to have to find how much tax there is in if she bought those items in both cities. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of labeling here. We'll say Jen's city, and then we'll say other city. So organization is really important when you're doing math work. Okay, let's set up your proportion here. So I don't know the tax as money. I do know the cost of the items at this point is $57.24. I know the tax rate in her city, and I'm looking up to be careful, is 7.15%. It's always out of 100. I'm just going to set up the template, the proportion for the other city as well. It's the same cost of items, but the sales tax here is 6.35, and it's out of 100. Okay, so let's go ahead and do your means extremes for both of these. Okay, so we'll walk through this process for both. We have 100t equals whatever that is, and we have 100t equals whatever that is. So let's go ahead and do the multiplication. 57.24 times 7.15. Okay, so we have 409.266. And the other one, we have $57.24 times 6.35. And we have $363.474. Okay, let's go ahead and isolate the variable. Divide by 100, divide by 100, divide by 100, divide by 100. And I have a tax equals, swoop, swoop, 4.09. And a tax equals, swoop, swoop, 3.63. Okay, so there's my tax on both of those. The original amount of money was the same for each place, so obviously the one with the smaller tax rate is going to be different, but that's not what they're asking. So obviously it's going to be cheaper in the other city. It's asking how much more is she spending if she purchases the items in the city where she lives. Okay, well, I mean, $4.09 and $3.63. If we do that subtraction, 4.09, oh my gosh, 09 minus 3.63. So she is, when I subtract these two, we have, she is spending $0.46 more. And there you go, 46 cents more. Okay, all right, your job is number 11. Okay, so the rest of those are for you to practice independently, and then we'll check those in class tomorrow.